She's been spotted at fan conventions in 2025, smiling for photos and signing autographs. A woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. Most people there recognize her face but can't quite place where they know her from. Those who do remember are transported back to the late 70s and early 80s when Kristy McNichol wasn't just famous, she was everywhere. Magazine covers, primetime television, blockbuster films. She was America's sweetheart, the girl next door with talent that made grown critics weep. Then one day, she vanished. No goodbye tour, no final interview, just gone. For years, people whispered about what happened. Drugs? A scandal? The truth, when it finally came out, was far more devastating than anyone imagined. The story begins not with glamour, but with desperation. Carolyn McNichol had dreams once. She wanted to be an actress, wanted to see her name in lights, wanted to escape the mundane reality of secretarial work and makeup sales. But Hollywood had rejected her, and now she was a single mother struggling to keep food on the table for her two kids, Kristy and Jimmy. When their father left, Carolyn was forced to take any work she could find. Sometimes that meant background roles in low-budget films, the kind of parts that paid just enough to cover rent. On one particular day in 1968, Carolyn was working as an extra on a Bigfoot movie. She couldn't afford a babysitter, so 6-year-old Kristy and her brother came along. The production was chaotic, and at one point Kristy was left alone in a hot car. She was terrified, crying and shaking. A crew member found her and was struck by something in her face, the way her eyes held both fear and a strange maturity. He told Carolyn her kids should be in commercials. It was an offhand comment, but Carolyn heard opportunity knocking. Within months, both children were auditioning. Toothpaste, cereal, toys, anything that paid. Jimmy was good, charming, and easygoing. But Kristy was different. Even at 6 years old, she had this ability to convey emotion that felt impossibly real. Casting directors noticed. By the time she was 9, Kristy was the primary breadwinner for her family. She paid the rent, bought the groceries, kept the lights on. Her mother managed her career but also relied on her income, and that created a dynamic that would haunt Kristy for decades. She later described her mother as flighty, someone who would disappear to Vegas for days while Kristy stayed home making sure bills got paid. At 11 years old, she wasn't living like a child. She was living like a 30-year-old with the weight of her family's survival on her shoulders. By 1976, Kristy McNichol was already a working actress with dozens of commercials and guest spots under her belt. Then came the audition that would change everything. ABC was developing a drama called Family, a show that would tackle real issues like divorce, adolescence, and identity. They needed someone to play Buddy Lawrence, the middle child navigating the chaos of a fractured family. Kristy was 13 when she walked into that audition room, and she didn't just read the lines, she became Buddy. The role was hers. Family premiered in March 1976 and became an instant hit. It wasn't a fluffy sitcom, it was raw, emotional, often uncomfortable. And at the center of it all was Kristy, delivering performances that made audiences forget they were watching a teenager. She earned 3 consecutive Emmy nominations and won twice in 1977 and 1979. She was 15 years old with 2 Emmy Awards. Magazines called her the most talented young actress in America. Fan mail poured in by the thousands. She was making $1 million a year, an astronomical sum for a teenager in the 70s. But behind the accolades was a girl drowning in pressure. She had no time for school dances or sleepovers. Her days started before dawn with hair and makeup, then 12-hour shoots, then interviews and publicity events. When Family wrapped each season, there was no break. Her mother and agents immediately lined up the next project. Kristy later confessed that she never learned to say no. She didn't know how. The word wasn't in her vocabulary because saying no meant disappointing everyone who depended on her. Her mother, her brother, her agents, the studio. So she said yes to everything, even when her body was screaming for rest, even when she felt like she was losing herself. She wasn't Kristy anymore. She was Buddy Lawrence. She was a product, a commodity, a machine that produced tears and smiles on command. When Family ended in 1980, Kristy was 18 years old and already exhausted. But Hollywood saw her as a hot commodity, and the offers kept coming. That same year, she starred in Little Darlings opposite Tatum O'Neal. a film about two teenage girls at summer camp making a bet about losing their virginity. It was edgy, controversial, and a massive hit. Kristy's performance was raw and vulnerable, capturing the confusion of adolescence in a way that felt painfully real. Critics raved. Roger Ebert called her mesmerizing. Teen magazines couldn't get enough of her. She was on every cover, in every interview, the face of a generation. She also appeared on Battle of the Network Stars, competing in athletic events alongside other celebrities, cementing her status as America's favorite teenager. But something happened during the filming of Little Darlings that Kristy didn't talk about for years. She was alone in the director's trailer one afternoon when he made a move on her. She pushed him away and told him to keep his hands off her, but the incident shook her deeply. She was 18, vulnerable, and suddenly aware of how predatory Hollywood could be. Nobody protected her. Nobody asked if she was okay. The film wrapped, it made millions, and everyone moved on, except Kristy. She started asking herself a question that had no good answer. What is this life of mine all about? She was wealthy, famous, adored by millions, and utterly miserable. The work never stopped. Before she could even process one role, she was handed another script and told to get on a plane. In 1981, she starred in Only When I Laugh with Marsha Mason, earning a Golden Globe nomination. The same year, she appeared in The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia. Then came another film, then another. Her schedule was relentless, and her mental state was deteriorating. By 1982, Kristy McNichol was 20 years old and on the verge of collapse. Her next project was Just the Way You Are, a romantic drama filming in the French Alps. She begged not to go. She told her team she couldn't handle it, that she needed time off, that something was seriously wrong. They dismissed her concerns. "We'll get through it," they said. "You'll be fine." So she got on the plane, and for 5 weeks, she lived in hell. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. She cried constantly, unable to stop the tears even when cameras were rolling. Her weight dropped to 96 pounds. She had panic attacks that left her shaking and gasping for air. At night, she was plagued by nightmares so vivid she'd wake up screaming. The crew noticed but didn't know what to do. Her co-stars were concerned but powerless. When Christmas break finally came, Kristy flew back to California and told her team she wasn't returning to France. They tried to convince her. They offered more money, more time off after filming, anything to get her back on set. She refused. The production shut down for an entire year. Tabloids went wild with speculation. Was it drugs? An eating disorder? A nervous breakdown? The truth was both simpler and more complex. Kristy found a psychiatrist who specialized in adolescent trauma, and for the first time, someone listened to her, really listened. She had been carrying rage and pain for years, bottling it up because she had to be professional, had to be grateful, had to keep working. Now it was all pouring out. The diagnosis was bipolar disorder, a condition that wasn't well understood in the early 80s. The studio called it a chemical imbalance to make it sound less severe, less stigmatizing. But the real causes went deeper. A childhood stolen by fame, the pressure of being her family's sole provider, the confusion of hiding her sexuality in an industry that demanded perfection. It all came crashing down at once, and Kristy was left trying to pick up the pieces of a life she'd never really had control over. Her brother Jimmy moved in with her during those dark months. He cooked for her, cleaned, made sure she took her medication, and most importantly, just sat with her when the weight of everything felt unbearable. "She wasn't just my sister," Jimmy said later. "She was my best friend." Slowly, painfully, Kristy started to rebuild. She eventually returned to finish Just the Way You Are, though the experience left scars. The film was released in 1984 to mixed reviews, but those who watched closely could see the pain in Kristy's eyes. It wasn't acting, it was survival. While Kristy was trying to piece her life back together, she found something she hadn't expected: love. She met Elizabeth Brooks, an actress best known for her role in the horror film The Howling. Elizabeth was beautiful, talented, and understood the pressures of Hollywood in a way few others could. They fell in love quietly, keeping their relationship hidden from the public. In the 80s, being openly gay in Hollywood was career-ending, and Kristy was already fragile, so they lived in secret, building a life together away from cameras and tabloids. In 1989, they even worked together on a TV movie called The Forgotten One. though few knew they were a couple. For a while, Kristy found peace. She wasn't working as much, but she didn't care. She had Elizabeth, and that was enough. Then came the diagnosis that shattered everything. Elizabeth was sick. Brain cancer, aggressive and untreatable. Kristy watched the woman she loved deteriorate over months, helpless to stop it. She became Elizabeth's caretaker, holding her hand through chemotherapy, sitting by her bedside during the worst nights, and trying to make her comfortable as the end approached. On September 7, 1997, just 4 days before Kristy's 35th birthday, Elizabeth Brooks died. The grief was unbearable, made worse by the fact that Kristy couldn't publicly mourn. She couldn't tell the world she'd lost the love of her life because the world didn't know Elizabeth had been hers. She suffered in silence, carrying a heartbreak that had no name. In 1988, before Elizabeth's diagnosis, Kristy had returned to television in a show called Empty Nest. It was a spin-off of The Golden Girls, and Kristy played Barbara Weston, a tough but sensitive cop living with her widowed father. The show was lighthearted, comforting, and became a hit. For a while, it seemed like Kristy had found stability. The cast and crew loved her, and viewers welcomed her back with open arms. But the demons never fully left. By 1992, the weight of everything, Elizabeth's illness, her own mental health struggles, the relentless grind of weekly television, became too much. In the middle of the show's 5th season, Kristy walked away. No dramatic exit, no press conference. She just quietly left, and the show wrote her character out. Her publicist released a vague statement about health reasons, but nobody knew the full story. In 1995, Kristy returned for the series finale, giving fans one last goodbye. After that, she lent her voice to a few animated shows, Extreme Ghostbusters and Invasion America, and then she was gone. Hollywood would never see her on screen again. For nearly 2 decades, Kristy McNichol lived in complete privacy. She taught acting at private schools, sharing her knowledge with young students who had no idea they were learning from a 2-time Emmy winner. She traveled, practiced yoga, played tennis, and filled her home with rescue dogs. She found a new partner, Marty Allen, and together they built a quiet life far from the chaos of fame. Then in 2012, at the age of 49, Kristy made a decision that surprised everyone. She came out publicly as gay. Through her publicist, she announced that she'd been with Marty since the early 90s and wanted to live openly. "I want to help others who feel different," she said, "and to support kids who are being bullied." For the first time, the world saw the real Kristy McNichol, not the tortured child star, not the mysterious recluse, but a woman who had survived hell and come out the other side stronger. Her revelation explained so much. The breakdown in France wasn't just about exhaustion. It was about living a lie, hiding who she was while the world demanded she be perfect. It was about losing her childhood, her identity, and nearly her life to an industry that took everything and gave back very little. Coming out was Kristy's way of reclaiming her story, of saying she was done hiding, done pretending, done living for anyone but herself. Today, Kristy McNichol is 62 years old and still living in Los Angeles. She occasionally appears at fan conventions, smiling for photos and thanking people who remember her work. She's a member of the Los Angeles Valley College Choir, singing for the joy of it, not for applause or awards. She and Marty are still together after more than 30 years, a quiet testament to love that survived Hollywood's cruelty. Her net worth is estimated between $4 and $7 million, mostly from residuals from Family and Empty Nest. But money has never been what mattered to her. What matters is peace. What matters is living authentically. What matters is being Kristy McNichol, not the version Hollywood wanted her to be. She once said something that perfectly captures her journey. "I was on the big stage between ages 8 and 30. I left show business to play my biggest part, myself." That statement is powerful because it reframes her story. She didn't fail. She didn't burn out. She chose to walk away from a system that was destroying her, and in doing so, she saved her own life. In an industry where so many child stars are consumed by fame, where addiction, mental illness, and tragedy are almost expected, Kristy McNichol did something radical. She survived. She healed. She found happiness on her own terms. Her story isn't a cautionary tale about the dangers of fame, though it certainly could be. It's a story about courage, The courage to say enough when everyone around you is telling you to keep going. The courage to admit you're struggling when the world expects you to be strong. The courage to walk away from millions of dollars and adoring fans because you know staying will kill you. And perhaps most importantly, the courage to live openly as yourself, even when it's terrifying. Kristy McNichol broke every rule Hollywood had for child stars. She refused to fade quietly into obscurity. She refused to play the tragic, broken former star. She refused to apologize for choosing her mental health over her career, and she refused to hide who she loved. What makes her story even more remarkable is that she's not bitter. She doesn't trash Hollywood or blame the people who pushed her too hard. She acknowledges the pain, the trauma, the years of therapy it took to heal, but she also recognizes that acting gave her financial security and a platform to eventually help others. She's at peace with her past, which is something very few former child stars can say. When asked if she'd ever return to acting, Kristy just smiles. Never say never, she'll say, though the tone makes it clear she's exactly where she wants to be. Teaching, singing, loving, living. No scripts, no cameras, no pressure. Just life, real and messy and beautiful. The girl who disappeared from Hollywood didn't lose herself. She found herself. She walked away from the spotlight and into the light, choosing authenticity over fame, peace over applause, love over loneliness. And in a world where so many stars burn out, where the cost of fame is often measured in broken lives and early graves, Kristy McNichol's story stands as proof that there's another way. You can survive Hollywood. You can heal from trauma. You can choose yourself, even when everyone else is choosing your career. Kristy McNichol didn't just survive. She won. She got out, she got healthy, and she got happy. That might just be the most inspiring ending any Hollywood story has ever had.